When I was 6 years old, my family and I traveled to Paris. It was the first time I had ever been to Europe, and I was struck by the beauty around me. The city, the people, the fashion, the food. It was like a dream. While we were there, we went to the Galeries Lafayette, and I was amazed. Stories upon stories of the most beautiful people and fashions and foods that I had ever seen. And as an exploring child, I wanted nothing more than to be a part of this beauty. So, with my mother trailing closely behind me and the promise of one item that I really, really wanted, I approached the attendant working at the makeup counter. So I stood there, a little nervous, very excited, and prepared to ask for help. It didn't, however, take long for my excitement to dwindle as the attendant stared past me onto the next customer. At the time, I didn't think much of it. I was more confused than anything else. To be honest, I was a small, easy-to-miss 6-year-old. Perhaps she hadn't seen me. It wasn't until my mother approached me to ask what was taking so long that I realized precisely how long I had been waiting. Of course, as my mother reached my side, the attendant sprung to life and was as helpful as could be. While this isn't the most significant story you will hear today, nor the most impactful, its significance lies not in the story itself, but rather in the problem it represents. Overwhelmingly, society disregards young people purely because they are young. The story of my 6-year-old tragedy is not one that is overwhelmingly shocking, nor moving, but it is for that very reason that I chose to tell this story. I chose to tell this story because in and of itself, it represents the commonplace nature of excluding children from conversations. I can remember countless times where I've been ignored or excluded from dialogue simply because I am young. And I believe that I'm specifically sensitive to this issue, as my parents have always made a note of paying attention to me. From a young age, I was allowed and encouraged to engage in meaningful debate, and I was allowed, within reason, to question the claims made by my family and friends, and I was listened to with open ears when I had a grievance to air. This wasn't to say that I was an equal in my upbringing, not at all, but rather within the bounds of their parental authority, I was given the capacity to question, learn, and engage in debate and conversation. It is for this reason that I find myself, more than anything, frustrated and angry when I am disregarded purely because I am young, purely because of my age. Once again, I remember countless times where I have been ignored because I'm young, and each and every time I remember thinking to myself, they were young once. Did they not deserve a voice? Well, I am relatively now quite a bit older than I was at age 6, and comparatively, I am treated like an adult. Do I have a voice now? No. About a year or so ago, I remember getting into a rather heated debate with a family friend regarding tolerance of trans and LGBTQ people. The family friend had made a claim that I found offensive, and I jumped to defend what I believed to be correct. The woman with which I debated had stated their discomfort at the idea of gender fluidity and gender identities. As the conversation began to wear thin and travel in circles, the family friend said to me, "Well, we have been defending social justice since long before you were born. Don't try to question us." And just like that, the conversation was over. Just like that, all my authority in the dialogue vanished. Just like that, the platform on which I stood was no longer there because, of course, I am too young to understand an issue of that breadth. There is no doubt that society greatly loses out when young people are excluded from conversations. How can we expect a world to progress when the voices of our youth, the voices of our future, are constantly being belittled and silenced? I don't believe that we can. So, I pose to you all. The next time a young person approaches you to ask a question, to explore an idea, to expand on a perspective, listen to them. Just listen to them. Because who knows? You might just learn something. Thank you.